The boy was born with a pair of white eyes because he has no pupils. He can't see anything. Every time he went out, he would tie a rope to his body, but the strange thing is that the length of the rope just reaches the edge of the woods, and a dark figure would often appear in the woods always staring at him strangely. Although the boy's eyes were blind, his mother forced him to go out hunting every day. The empty jar hanging from the tree was the marker. There is a hunting tool underneath. What was even stranger was that every time he caught a prey, his mother asked him to divide the food into two halves, one half for himself and one half to throw into the woods. Although he did not know why he had to do so, but the boy never disobeyed his mother's request. One day, the boy was checking his prey as usual, but he inadvertently felt a long chain. The boy was immediately stopped by his mother, and the mother seemed to be nervous about something too. She immediately took the boy back home. However, that very night, the mother put her son to bed and then went off into the woods by herself. Her figure also faded into the darkness. More than 10 years had passed, and the little boy had become a big boy. The mother never came back. All that was left with him was a goat and a recording left by his mother. The recording contains 3 very important rules. First, every time you catch a prey, you must take out half of it and throw it into the woods. Second, every time he feels afraid, he sings the nursery rhyme his mother taught him. Third, and the most important point, wherever he went, he had to tie a rope, and so the boy lived a quiet and peaceful life. However, the question buried in his heart was still haunting him for a long time, until one day, a hissing sound caught the boy's attention. He approached the direction of the sound with fear and trepidation, but the length of the rope reached its limit. He knew he could not go any further, so he had to return home and listen to his mother's recording, but he couldn't figure out why his mother had left him here alone, and why the rope just reached the edge of the woods. He couldn't sleep because he was so confused. Just then, there was a sound from the woods again. He hurriedly put on the rope and followed the direction of the sound and approached slowly. Soon the rope reached the end. In order to find out, he had to bend down and reach out to feel. Unexpectedly, he touched the goat with his own life. Suddenly the goat was dragged away by a mysterious force. Time passed by day by day. The family's food stock is almost gone, and he hadn't caught any prey for a long time. Just as the boy was worried, a gunshot came from not far away. He followed the direction of the sound and found a deer on the ground, but before he could figure out what was happening, a man suddenly came up next to him. When he heard someone coming, the boy hurriedly pulled out a pocket knife. When the boy woke up, Tom rushed to explain to him. He mistakenly thought that the boy was robbing his prey, so he knocked him out. It seems to be a misunderstanding. To make up for his mistake, he was willing to share his prey with the boy, so the boy took him back to his home. After some communication, the boy felt that Tom did not mean any harm. He gradually lowered his guard and promised Tom to stay at home first. Late at night, the two were sleeping. A strange sound came from the woods again. They were awakened at the same time. Tom immediately rushed out with his gun. He asked the boy what the sound in the woods was, but the boy shook his head in confusion. Tom felt very strange. He decided to go into the woods alone to check. At this point, the boy became a little nervous, because his mother had not allowed him to go to the woods since he was a child. The boy tried to dissuade him, but it didn't work. Soon Tom found a dead black bear. There were still deep scratches on the tree. Tom was a little scared to see this. He turned around and prepared to leave the woods, but he hadn't gone far when a figure suddenly stood not far away. Before he could react, the figure rushed towards him. Good thing Tom escaped from the woods in time, and the figure did not come after him. Panicked, Tom returned home. He told the boy what had happened. The boy went under the covers and sang his mother's song in fear. The next day, the boy asked Tom for a piece of venison early in the morning. Tom thought the boy was going to eat it himself, but to his surprise, the boy hurriedly went to the woods. Puzzled, Tom followed him. When the rope reached the end, the boy skillfully threw the food into the woods. This made Tom very confused, so the boy told him what his mother had told him. Although he heard the explanation, Tom still could not understand. He felt that it was because the boy threw the food that attracted the wild animals around. He invited the boy to go to the woods with him to check. He had never been in the woods before and was curious about the place. The boy agreed to go with him, but the length of the rope was limited, and he didn't want to break his mother's rules. So Tom came up with a plan. He used some old bed sheets to extend the rope. Then the two of them went deep into the woods. The boy was dragged away by a mysterious force. Tom rushed after him, but luckily it stopped in the middle. The two men were so frightened that they did not dare to stay and returned home. What just happened scared the boy. Tom found a notebook. It was left by the boy's mother and contained a lot of past events. Tom wanted to use the contents to ease the boy's emotions. He read it to the boy. He leaned his head on Tom's body. The boy was enjoying himself, but just then, Tom discovered a surprising secret. The note stated that the boy's father was an extremely dangerous being. The notes also contained the phrase, "A chain to tie one, a rope to tie one." This instantly gave Tom the creeps. He seemed to understand something. The boy asked him why he had stopped reading. Tom just dealt with a few words and let the boy into the house to sleep. After confirming that the boy was asleep, he fished out the huge trap and loaded up his equipment and headed for the woods again. Soon he came to a hidden hillside. There were still some animal bones on the ground. Tom guessed that this was where the monster was hiding. He immediately used the trap to set up an ambush. Meanwhile, The boy woke up. He called Tom several times without response. Suddenly there was a gunshot in the woods. Realizing that something was wrong, the boy immediately put on the rope and walked towards the forest. He soon found Tom's backpack, but the rope had reached its end. For the sake of Tom's safety, he broke his mother's rule. The boy took off the rope and rolled and crawled on, but what he feared had happened. By now Tom was not breathing. He tried to shake his body, but still no response. The boy completely collapsed. He shouted loudly. Suddenly he heard a noise in front of him. The scene frightened him and he backed up. A wild man appeared in front of him. He quickly rushed towards the boy. At the critical moment Tom's trap worked. The chain was about to be ripped off. At that moment, the boy remembered his mother's words. When he was afraid, he sang the song he had been taught. But as he sang, the irritable wild man suddenly stopped struggling. She sang with the boy. The boy was completely stunned. Yes, the wild man was the boy's mother. He slowly approached his mother. The mother also hugged him tightly. But the boy did not show mercy, but stabbed into her body. Because the boy knew that his mother had become a monster, he could only kill his mother mercilessly. As his mother gradually lost her life, the boy sat there in a daze, lost in thought. But just as he was thinking about where to go in the future, a crow cried in the sky. But the next second, the boy's eyes suddenly changed. This is the end of the movie. The film gives an open ending. My guess is that the boy's family was cursed by the woods and someone had to live there as a savage. If someone dies, there will be another to take over. So after the father died, the mother felt she was about to change. She had to go to the woods alone and change herself. This is where the movie ends.